This is the worst part. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast. This is Two Catholic Dudes, and my name is Ryan Klaus.
And my name is Danny Cleary.
And as always, we're not priests, we're not theologians, we're just two Catholic dudes, and we're talking about our faith.
And this week on the podcast, if you're watching, this is our first live 3-camera shoot experience where we are live switching the cameras. And by we, I mean Ryan is live switching the cameras and doing the keyboard stuff. We got a whole bunch of different technical aspects that we're doing that we've added to the show. So bear with us on this first one, but I'm pretty confident that it's going off without a hitch. So this week on the podcast, we're talking all about comfort zones. I did a Tuesday thought on it a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to, I asked Ryan, I'm like, hey, what about doing an entire podcast episode on this topic? Because I think it's something that a lot of people want to talk about, want to dive into. So that's what we're talking about today. These comfort zones.
Yeah, and it's pretty exciting. Like, you know, we've been working a lot on production over the last year. We've been stepping it up, and it got to the point of the post-processing side was just so much. Like, it was getting on like 4 hours sometimes of editing. So I was thinking, like, you know, a lot of us have been incorporating our live streaming into our churches, and over the course of COVID, we've been gradually getting more and more, bringing up the production value in our churches. And I've learned a lot about live streaming in that time as well. And I was thinking, how can we possibly incorporate some of the live streaming elements that we do at church into our podcast here? And so essentially we can live edit while we're doing the podcast, and then it's done and ready to go, packaged. We just put it out there to the world. Yeah. But it still looks as produced as we did before. So that was the challenge, and I've been working on that for the past couple of weeks, figuring out how we could do it. So now we have a 3-camera shoot. We're switching it live. So, you know,
we'll see how it goes.
And so the one thing I was worried about was, like, if I'm so focused on doing this that I wouldn't be able to be present here in the moment. So time will tell during this podcast if it'll work or not.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm sure it'll be fine.
The point is, this is uncomfortable, and we're trying to step outside in new ways to stretch ourselves because, like we keep saying it, God is calling us to great things. God was calling us in this podcast. He wanted us to grow in ways to evangelize, and we did that over the last year, but we want to continue to grow, but we're stretched so thin in terms of time that it's like, I don't have any more that I can give of myself. But if we, figure out ways that we can do this to alleviate more time, then we're freed up to take on new tasks in our lives.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool thing, that always want to learn different skills and stuff. And I think that's a big thing we're going to talk about today with the comfort zone thing, because sometimes having to step out of what you normally do, you're forced, in a sense, to acquire new skills and new talents and new things that may be useful to whatever it is that you're doing. And I think that with all the live streaming that we've had to do for our churches, then bringing it to the show, and then taking some of the burden off you and the post-editing to do it live, I think it's all great. So I'm sure it'll be good.
Yeah. So you guys, we were talking about your church. You've been doing kind of was it from the phone, your live streaming?
We're still doing the phone thing.
But you guys are talking about possibly getting a camera set up?
Yeah, because here's the thing. So something I've talked about on the show, I think once or twice before, is that we're using my cell phone, like my personal cell phone, to stream. So, which is fine. Like, I don't mind it, and I'm happy to give my time and my, to the church. But it's one of those things where I'm kind of shackled to the live stream masses. Like, whenever mass is happening, like, I need to be there.
There's no backup phone? There's nothing?
There's no backup phone. Like, when it was really, really hot, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, my phone actually overheated in the middle of mass and just turned off. And I put it in an ice chest.
Yeah, that's not healthy for you to be able to have to be there every single mass.
Yeah.
And that's not, you need a good backup. Like, for when we were still streaming from our phones, we had my pastor's old iPhone, which created problems because it was like an iPhone 8, but it didn't have as good of a camera. We got some of that, like, if you guys seen live streams from your churches where like there's like a pumping effect, it's an older camera trying to find exposure, and it's like creating, like, it's trying to focus on different parts of the light.
Right.
So the older phone generation you go back, the more you get that. But that would be what they did alleviate was that Father John didn't have to be there, or I didn't have to be there at every single mass.
Sure.
So that there was just a designated,
there was a device for it.
For that, right?
So, and we're not live streaming every single mass, but the ones that we do live stream, provide the live stream for, I am like, I need to be there. And not only that, but I need to be running the stream because my phone is hooked up to another device that plugs into our audio. So it's just a whole big setup.
Yeah.
But we're looking to make some moves into a camera direction because I think that live streaming is going to be a part of the church for the foreseeable future. Not just like everyone keeps talking about how it's like, well, when we get back to the normal, like we can stop doing this. I think this is going to be a service that churches should provide and should have. You have the means to do it for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I've talked about it before. It's like you said, it's here to stay. There's plenty of people that for quite a while are not going to come back because of COVID. But once we're back to quote unquote normal, there's going to be plenty of people that, that still can't go to mass, the sick that can't leave their houses, people that, for whatever reason, they just can't make it to mass that week, that they have that option. That also there's, I think one of the beautiful things about all the digital masses is that you can find homilies, you can listen to Bishop Barron, you can listen to Father Mike Schmitz. They were already doing it, but like there's other options, and you can be fed and nourished for. You should be focusing on your home parish, but there's other options, and that eventually will help us all build each other up, hopefully. But then there's some financial aspects. I know it's a burden to pay for all the camera system and everything in your churches. It's a lot of money to get all this set up. But if, for instance, you're having weddings, you're having funerals, you're having miscellaneous events at your churches, you could start offering an extra fee on top of those events.
It's like an additional service.
It's an additional service to do that, right? And so you can have you pay for the technician to be there,
right,
to run the cameras, but then the church makes the rest of the money. After a few years of that, you'll start to make your money back from the initial investment on the cameras, right?
I think so. And I think that it's something that, like, for instance, confirmation, sacraments, things like that, like it can be something that families that have out of town relatives, or different people that are away at college that want to watch their younger sibling or their friend or something go through the sacraments. It could be something that the church always is able to live stream and put up for people to see. Just things like that I've been thinking about, because I think that it is going to be a staple in church life. And I know that a lot of people are kind of maybe still uncomfortable with it, and I think this is one of the things that churches need to get comfortable with, the technological age, because like we are moving into that. And I'm not saying like the social media technological part, but like using technology to make to show and to enhance your events, your worship services, your liturgies, anything like that, like allowing yourself to use the tools that technology provides to make it better. I think that that's something that a lot of people are kind of uncomfortable with, the idea of that, and I think it's time to shake it off, because it's now's we got to do it.
Right.
So
obviously we've talked about this. We had a whole episode on technology and using it in
we don't want to
churches.
harp on it too much.
Yeah, but like that's one of the big headlines of 2020 and COVID within our churches, is how we've had to be thrust into this technological age. And so that's kind of the head point of this episode of why being uncomfortable is okay. But we want to move into other aspects of how has 2020 especially pushed us out of our comfort zones. We'll talk a little bit personally, but and again, for me, it always comes down to perspective. You can view the world how you want to view it, and you can choose to view it glass half full, glass half empty. But for instance, like most churches, they're having masses outside, and I've heard so many people grumbling about it and saying, like, this is so stupid. Why are we outside? But like, and there's a lot of political stuff we could talk about with that. But like, this is our situation. This is what we're in. But I love when I hear people like, It's actually beautiful. You get to see, like, we have some early morning masses. It's like, look, we saw like the sunrise, this cool, crisp air. We're outside. We're together as a community. We're making it work. So yes, this is uncomfortable. We're here together. We didn't want this. We didn't ask for this, but like, let's experience the beauty while we're here together.
Yeah, I think that's because I'm struggling with it because like youth ministry in the LA diocese is basically like forbidden. Like you can't have youth group. And it's super frustrating for me because it's been like my entire life has been dedicated to like youth ministry, and that's my whole career. And they're basically just like, well, do it on Zoom or don't do it. Thankfully, like worship services are allowed. So like what we've been doing is the teens and I have been gathering at Thursday night mass. And it's getting darker now around 7 o'clock, but they put up like the lights like you see behind me and like the lights that you guys have here. A lot of people have in their backyards even. We put them up in our parking lot. And it's made for like a really beautiful setting for mass.
I saw a picture of it. It looked incredible.
Yeah, and it just looks awesome. So like there has been that bonus of like, yeah, it's uncomfortable that the teens are showing up and they have to wear their masks and everything, and they have to not go inside and play games. We're just kind of sitting in the parking lot in lawn chairs doing mass, and that's what their youth group is. But at the same time, they're getting to experience their community still. They
Right.
still the pros are they still get to be together in some aspects.
Right.
And you look at, wow, this is a really cool mass to
Yeah.
be a part of. Like you can at least talk about that you were at the mass that was outdoors when it had to be.
Exactly. And do you want to look back now and say, I was the person that was just complaining about everything? Or do you want to look back and say, I was the person that did this. I did that.
Yeah.
So, and again, this may be like easier for me to say because my mind just works this way. It's like,
Sure.
How can I take this situation and run with it? No matter what it is, good, bad. I try not to think of it that way. I just say, what's the opportunity here? And that's just the way my mind works, like I said. But I know that might be harder for other people. But I say this situation, in theory, sucks. But what am I going to do? How is this going to push me, right? So I've taken this opportunity, and like I've said on many podcasts, and I've just learned like 10 years of video production in this short 6-month span because I just dove in head first. Like nobody asked me at my church, hey, can you start filming reflections for all of our deacons, our priests? And now I'm moving into like filming. I've been doing, like, we have Bible study groups, like a men's Bible study, a women's Bible study group, and I've been having volunteers from those ministries come in and talk about their ministry to have them start to promote it and have new people come in. And that's like exhausting, and it's taken a ton of time. But I just decided I wanted to do it because I wanted to give back to the church. But I also learned so much during this time, and it's one of those moments where I could have been like, COVID, this sucks. I'm just going to sit at home and wallow. I'll do the few masses that I need to, but I'm not going to push it. But I said, no. I want to look back and say, what did I do? Yeah, this wasn't an ideal situation, but what did I do during this that pushed me, that leveled me up? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the mindset that I wanted to have during this. And I encourage you to take that mindset. Do you want to look back and be proud that you watched, 37 seasons of something on Netflix and did nothing else? And you might not all we're all in different situations in different scenarios, but like we can take this time to grow, right?
Sure. All right, so let's pull away from the whole COVID thing for a while because that seems to be all anyone talks about. And because this has been getting out of your comfort zone has been something that's been challenging for people before there was a pandemic, right? Like just being stuck in a comfort zone and wanting to not do things that are out of the ordinary of your life is always challenging. At least I know for me personally, and we can get into the real seriousness of it in if we want to. But I think it's always been a challenge to do something that you're not used to doing or you're not comfortable doing. Whether it's you spoke about being a video editor, you were a musician, and then you're like, I'm going to become a video editor. Or if you want to be you want to lead a Bible study, but you don't really know a whole lot about leading a Bible study. That could be, I'm going to try it because it's uncomfortable, and it may be challenging at first, but it may be, something that's really, really fruitful for people. I don't know. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that every person has this struggle. I don't care whoever's listening, everyone has experienced being uncomfortable before and being unsure of themselves for something that they're going to do, whether there's COVID or not. And something that I want to reflect on, I used it in my Tuesday thoughts, is we can look back at, we always want to put our faith in the thought process, right? And like, how can we go, okay, how do we take inspiration from God in when we're dealing with this, right? I think every single Bible person in the Bible mainstay, if you will, all those famous people we hear about all the time, the Peter, Jesus, Moses, David, all of them had to be in a really uncomfortable situation to live out their ministry. Like, name a character in the Bible.
Moses, like you said.
Okay.
Easy one.
So Moses had to leave Egypt. Comfortable life, everything he knew, he felt there was something wrong, and he goes, hold on a second, this is not right. Completely ripped out of his whole life, then went to go be a Jew. And then on top of that, after that, when God goes, hey, I need you to go and talk to the Pharaoh. People for a long time, I would talk to the teenagers and I would go, tell me about Moses. And they'd go, he's in the movie The Prince of Egypt.
Nice.
Or they don't know the 10 Commandments. That's way too old for them. But
there was that remake sort of the 10 Commandments with, what's his name? The Terminator.
What?
Not Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was called Exodus. Wasn't it called Exodus? It was real bad. Real bad.
Christian Bale was
Christian
in
Bale.
it.
He was in one of the Terminators.
Yeah, he was.
Why did I think of that?
That's a terrible movie.
He was Batman.
But okay, but everybody thinks that Moses was like this, and he is. He's a great, brave man of God. But Moses had a really bad stutter. Like, that's what we know, that he couldn't speak well. And then God was like, go tell the Pharaoh, I need him to free the people. Be like,
it's like the King's Speech. Have you seen the King's Speech?
No.
It won the Oscar in 2010. It's a good movie. It's about a king who had a stutter, a speech impediment, and the whole movie was him overcoming it and giving a big speech.
Oh, okay.
But I stutter, I tell that point.
But that point of Moses' comfort zone was not going and telling someone something, but God goes, I need you to do this. So he had to step out of that in order to change the world.
He's like, this is the one thing that I can't do.
Yeah.
You're asking me to do this?
Exactly. We look at all of these, Peter, the disciples, these fishermen, they're comfortable fishing. I need you to stop fishing and come walk around with me and talk about loving each other. They had to completely step out of the things that they knew, the things that they were the normal, to do what God called them to do. You can look at, there's countless examples in Scripture of God calling us out of our comfort zone to do great things. We don't know.
Maybe we'll do another episode or a series on that.
You're having a good time with these buttons, right? But anyway, so when we talk about it, we can draw inspiration from Scripture. That there is people that God called out of their comfort zone specifically to change the entire course of history. And
that's when you grow the most, is when you're pulled out of your comfort zone. Right. If you're just stagnant, you're not growing. You're going backwards even, right?
Yeah. I saw a quote once that was like, you can't accomplish anything from the jail cell of your comfort zone.
Right.
Jail cell.
Right.
That's what I meant. If we're going to get super personal, I'll talk about it a little bit. Something that I haven't really talked about, I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but not a ton. And to be honest with you, if people are listening that know me really well, some people may not even know this, and I'm just going to be vulnerable with you guys, our listeners.
This is a Two Catholic Dudes exclusive right here.
Is I've dealt with really bad anxiety for for a long time. Everyone always says my whole life. How do you know when you were 2 if you dealt with it? But for as long as I can remember, I've dealt with really bad anxiety, and to the point where I would get really, really nauseous, or I would feel really uncomfortable in certain situations. And a lot of people right now in the world, they have dealt with things like these mental things and things like that. And I'm not trying to say poor me. This is absolutely not what this is. I'm just simply sharing my experience. But it's something that I've really gone through in my life. I've gone and spoken to teens before, and I've spoken at a couple events that we did for Two Catholic Dudes. And what people don't know is right before that, I'm have to know where the closest trash can is in case I have to throw up into it, because I'm so beyond nervous and anxious to do it. Even though it's something I love to do and I feel God is calling me to do, I'm beyond afraid to do it.
And that was new for me to find out really about you, because we've spent most of our relationship in our parish life.
In a comfortable setting.
In a comfortable, right here in this studio, whatever iteration of our studio we've been in, it's been comfortable for the two of us. But then, like, when I see you in action, normally you're Danny the youth minister at your parish with your kids, and you own that situation.
Sure.
You are the guy there. I'm not saying you're like, well, we've talked about that before. It's not that it's about you, but like, you take charge. You take command of the situation. That's what I see, and I see that. So I don't see that. I don't see you running for the trash can looking for all that while you're in those particular situations, right?
Right. Exactly. And it's not like it's just something that's like very real that I deal with. And like, I'll talk about something that has nothing to do with the faith world, but we talked about before that I used to be before COVID. I pro wrestle, and it's like, that's like a performance, right? And you go out in front of people into a live audience. But every single match that I go out to do, I am petrified before I walk out. It's like really bad. I like always feel so like incredibly nervous and anxious that I'm gonna mess it up, that I'm gonna do the wrong thing, or it's crazy. And when I get out there and I get into it, then I'm fine. You shake it off and you realize, but there's so much doubt sometimes. Like the thought every single time goes through my mind of, don't do it. Just don't do it. Just don't go out there. Don't bother. If you don't do it, you won't mess up. Because I have such a fear of messing up and failing and being rejected from something that it's very overwhelming for me. And I attribute though that this struggle that I've dealt with is kind of what brought me to God at the same time, because God was somebody, in my life when I would share this with somebody, when I shared this with my youth minister originally and a few other people, like, they were like, well, God doesn't care about any of that. You can't fail God because you're not holding God up. God holding you up. So it's something I always remembered. But when it comes to like, when people are counting on me, like at something that we're doing, or like when it was like the wrestling situation I just talked about, when the opportunity for me to let somebody down is there, it is awful.
It compounds on itself in those situations.
It manifests inside of me in the most uncomfortable way, and it's really, really a challenge. And just we'll get into it, but just recently, we went to the March for the Martyrs.
And if you guys are listening to this episode, we did a series of 5 episodes, all in a 3-day span. Yeah, we filmed those 3 days leading up to the March for the Martyrs, and we talked about it on every episode that we were going to the March, because that was
this is the first episode we've recorded after the fact.
Exactly. So we had a 4-week vacation, kind of from Two Catholic Dudes, and honestly, we haven't been posting that much on social media because both of us watched The Social Dilemma and
got freaked out.
I'm sure a lot of you have watched it, and it's eye-opening. I mean, I knew all that already, but like seeing that on screen, that was a really well done documentary. Like the little videos they had of the family, and like it's really, I don't know if you guys haven't watched The Social Dilemma.
It was like frightening.
It was frightening, right? The little girl, the middle school girl, that was the most frightening, because like, and they talked about it, that's the generation that all they've ever known is social media. They've grown up with social media.
Yeah, well, the most alarming part of it is I've seen kids like that before.
Right. Where somebody just joked. It was literally, they weren't even like, it wasn't anything mean, but they're like, they said something about her ears on like a comment. Yeah. And she like,
it just ruined her whole image of herself.
Yeah. Because everything's riding on it. Anyways, we haven't been posting that much. We basically just been posting the clips and stuff like that. But and trying to take a step back during this period where we didn't record either.
And to be honest, sorry to interrupt you, but like, social media is so toxic at the moment that like it just like sometimes you just need to break away from it, because like everything with the political scene, and it's just like, we did a whole episode on the Catholic hating Catholics thing, but it's just like social media is awful,
dude. And like, this isn't the political episode, but the debate was just this last week, and it's like, you wonder why our country is so divided, and you watch just the antithesis.
The two free leader, the two guys that are up to be the leader of the free world are calling each other names.
Yeah,
it's
yelling each other. It's
awesome.
It's like
that was a live Facebook comment section that we just watched on a political platform.
Right. Exactly. So, anyways, we were we diverted there, but we went to the March for the Martyrs.
Okay, so and this is please bear with me, listeners. I'm about to get very personal. And Ryan and I talked about if I was going to talk about it or not. And you know, we want to be able to be honest with you guys. You guys are listeners, and we want to be honest on this podcast. This is authentic, you know, authentic. But so we're at the March for the Martyrs, and it's this. First of all, I want to say about March for the Martyrs, what a great event. Awesome, cool. Gia did a fantastic job putting it together. It was so cool. The speakers were engaging. The march itself was very fun. Tons of people.
This was the first ever, and during COVID, and there was like 750 people in a safe manner outside, spread out.
Yeah.
Like it was done impeccably. And for a first one, you think it would like bomb, and then you slowly get better. But like Gia put on an amazing event.
Yeah, it was really, really, really fantastic. But so to the point of it is, so I was very anxious about the day itself because I like, you know, new environment. And I always put in my mind, as I talked to you earlier about feeling afraid to like let people down and things like that. I also project that feeling of feeling unworthy on myself. And I would kind of.
So you have that imposter syndrome kind of, right?
Yeah. Like, what am I doing here? Mm-hmm. And like, I was worried that like me being at this event and like I'm nobody. Like, why am I here? Like, I don't deserve to be here, and I definitely don't deserve to be here in the vein that we were in.
You're saylike because we were like, quote unquote, we were like the special guests or something like that, but we weren't like speakers or we didn't do anything like that.
We didn't but like that. But we were invited to like the after party, and we got like a shuttle that took us to the hotel and all this stuff. Like, so we were treated really like important people.
Thank you, Gia.
Yeah. And like we were allowed to go in the lounge and had the special bracelet and all this cool stuff. And we were treated like people that really mattered. That's a bad way of saying it, but like people but like people that were really valued that we were there. You know, like I'm butchering this, but you get what I'm saying.
No one take offense at that. You know what he means. All right, move on.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was just really difficult for me to feel that. And I think because a lot of times in a lot of things that I do, and especially right now at my own church, I'm just the guy that moves things. Like, I set up for Mass. I move speakers and cables and plug everything in, and then I go and hide.
But now you know the difference between an XLR cable and a 1/4-inch cable.
I'm a master of cables. But that's kind of been my role. And like when I was with you and your band before, that was my role. I carried the backpack and moved things and held your guys' paperwork, and that's just always been my role in everything. And I guess I was comfortable doing that because nobody would talk to me, and I was kind of not. And I'm not saying I'm antisocial or anything, but like, I like knew my place, I guess, in a sense, and it was comfortable there. Nobody expected anything of me because I just was the guy that moved cables and held the backpack and whatever. And now at this event, like, we got there, and I put more pressure on myself than I needed to, thinking that we needed to be, aside from just being there and enjoying a great day. And you knew a lot more people than I did, and you were doing the whole camera shoot stuff, and there was a lot of times where I was just like sitting there. And I would allow myself to get into that uncomfortable state because I didn't have anybody to talk to, and I just sat there, and I was just like.
I'll also interject that I'm like a mama bird teacher in terms of like helping other people in situations like this, and I just go, off you go, out the nest, go ahead and fly,
sure. And
then I just go do my own thing, and that's the best way that I know to teach is just like put you into a situation. I do that with I'm diverting from your story really quick, but I do that with my new ministry that I'm forming at my church for our live stream.
Yeah.
I give them a quick crash course on how to do. We have one guy doing the camera, one guy doing the audio and the overlays and stuff like that. I give them a quick crash course, and I see in their eyes they're terrified. They don't know what to do, and I go, just try it, just go for it. I was like, what's the worst that can happen? You know, you miss a shot, you miss this, whatever. And a lot of times they bomb a lot of aspects of it, but gradually we've been improving over the weeks. And it's not like that I leave them out to dry, but it's kind of just that, you got it, I trust you,
sure.
Let's do it. So I was kind of doing that mentality with you during the event too. And yeah, because I knew a lot more people, and I've been in, you know, crazier social situations like that. So
sure.
that's more in my comfort zone.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to run off and do this. Here's this, ready, go.
Right. And so I just like kind of just stood around for the most of it, just allowing myself to feel like be in that prison of being uncomfortable. And it, you know, it was a bummer, and it was my own doing, you know, like it wasn't like I could have easily walked around and introduced myself to people and, you know, done whatever I needed to do, or I just kind of sat there frozen. And
maybe it's a feedback loop too, because, you know, as you start to feel those feelings, then you get more in your head, and they start to compound on themselves, and you feel them more and more,
sure,
right?
Sure.
Also, that was their second Frozen reference, because our title is
oh yeah,
our title is
Into the Unknown,
as you can see right here. Oh, it's backwards.
Yeah, who knows? And you know, there was a lot of different compounding elements. Like I had slept really terribly like 2 nights in a row, so I was on like probably a combined 8 hours of sleep in 2 nights, because you know I was sleeping I slept where you live and here where we are now, and
it's not comfortable.
It's not comfortable. But you know, and I just so I just was. I was in a weird place, but I'm not putting blame on anything. The only person to blame is myself. And you know what, I struggle with it a lot. But anyway, so we get through the day, we're fine, we're great. And we're going to the, this like after party for the special guests. And, you know, we got invited to go, and I immediately am like, I don't belong at a place like this. Like, I am not, like, they made a mistake. Why are they inviting me? All these really people that did all this great speaking and have done all this great work and are these, you know, bigger influencers are invited, and why are they inviting us? Like, you did all the filming and stuff, but like I have no, and I was just belittling myself, you know, and undervaluing myself, and it allowed me to. I was terrified to go. And like when I'm terrified to go, I don't like. It's not like I'm like, oh, Ryan, please, I don't want to go. I just kind of I just shut down.
I saw it in your face.
Sure, but I just shut down, and I just kind of, let's do it. You know, here we go. So, you know, we get there, we get to this event, and Ryan again, woohoo, I'm out of here, and he goes running off and talking to everyone he knows.
I told you I'd do that.
And you know, luckily I had a couple cool conversations with some really great people that we knew, and
didn't you talk with Rob?
I talked to Rob a lot.
Rob Renzi, he actually launched his, I don't know if you can call it a podcast. It's like a quick 6-minute segment. I watched the first one. It was really cool.
Yeah.
It's like, well, he was going to call it Stogies and Stories, but there was like copyright names.
Yeah, he called it something else.
Yeah, he called it something else. So
we'll tag him in the description. Yeah, but yeah, Rob was awesome. And I just met him that day, but like him and I ended up having like a 45-minute conversation about Indiana Jones and about Catholicism and Latin Mass and Novus Ordo and all that stuff. New
Indiana Jones episode coming? Maybe.
But all that stuff we talked about, and it was really great because it really helped me to like feel like, because it was funny because we talked about it and Rob kind of felt the same way. He was just like, oh, I'm just here.
I'm just a guy.
and we were kind of in the same boat. Like, so that was really cool. And then like I ended up jumping in, talking to people that you were talking to, and talking to Gia a little bit. But it was a like exhausting thing for me. Like I was like on edge the whole time, just a ball of nervousness the whole time. And you know, it was just one of those things. It ended up being a great night. We had a lot of fun, and I knew also part of it probably was that I knew I had to be up at 5 o'clock the next morning, and we were in Long Beach, and it was midnight, and I had to drive from Long Beach back to where I live.
But isn't that just it? We were talking about God pushing all these biblical characters out of their comfort zone, and being out of that comfort zone in its essence is uncomfortable. Like
Right.
I use the word in the definition, but the circumstances surrounding that are never going to be ideal. You know what I mean? Like having, I don't know by personal experience, but having a kid is probably very uncomfortable. When are you ever ready to have a kid? It's probably very rare that a couple's like, okay, and today we are officially ready. All our, we've taken care of this and this and this and this and this, and everything is ready. We're ready for the baby to come. It's like, no, that baby's going to happen, and you're still, you didn't get the house you wanted yet. You don't have the job you wanted yet. Your life might be in shambles, but like that kid's coming, and you're going to grow immensely because of it. So like the circumstances are never going to be right. So everything was compounding on itself. This was a big event for you. You had a lot going on to deal with during, with that anxiety, with that social anxiety, with being out of your comfort zone, but then like compounding being at this place, being exhausted, being, all these things were surrounding them, that circumstance, and it just made it exponentially more difficult, right?
Right. Yeah. So I was just like, and the thing with it is, I'm like, you're one of my, best friends. So like, you can see it in my face, but I'm just like hiding it too. Cause like, I don't want people to know that I'm like an anxious ball of worry. So I just suppress it all inside of me. And then, so boom, we get through the whole day. And then by the time we got back to the car, I just like, sorry for the too much information, but I just puked in this parking structure because I was so like overwhelmed and out of gas. And it was like, it was almost like relief that like, okay, I made it through. Mm-hmm. But it was brutal. And I think it was the first time that you kind of saw, saw what I was going through like firsthand, like to the full extent. Yeah. You were like,
no, we had a long talk about it. So if you guys see us at an event and you're like, why is Danny mad at me? It's not you, it's Danny.
He's
not mad at you, but like that, no, like we all deal with stuff, and like I deal with my own stuff, but I think it's like a muscle. Like I said, you can get better at it. You just have to like continually, like anything in life.
Right.
Like you see these these muscle dudes at these weightlifting competitions. They didn't just show up one day, lift a couple weights, and all of a sudden they're jacked. It's every day doing the reps and getting better and better. Sorry, I'm still going, but like, I was a social anxiety wreck at one point in my life. My dad, he's like floored. We had a conversation about it the other day. Like I couldn't talk to anybody at all. Like I would put my headphones on and just be in my own world, and if like a stranger talked to me, I'd be like, yes, thank you, no, appreciate it, bye. But like I couldn't get out of my comfort zone in that regard. But then I got a job at a grocery store, Vaughn's. Kroger, is that the company? I don't know. If you're listening on the East Coast, there's no Vaughn's out there. I got a job at a grocery store, and you have to open up when you're in that setting. I had to talk to a whole bunch of people. I did that for 3 years. After that, I started working at a restaurant, and I was from a host to takeout to a server. When you're a server, there is no, I'm not good with social situations. You just have to figure it out and get past it and move on. And so I did that for 10 years, a server, a bartender, and after that 10 years, like I was a completely changed person, because that's every single day learning to talk to strangers and just getting out there. But like that, it just proves that like somebody literally, I went same mindset and same feelings that you're going through. I had all those, and I was like terrified to talk to anybody that I was not comfortable with. And now, no big deal. But it's because every day.
Well, and that's the thing too, is it's like me up on a stage talking about my faith, no problem. Me talking to a group of teenagers about things, no problem. Me being on a video camera talking to people, no problem. But it's those small, intimate social settings, especially with people. I've learned that it's people that I really respect. If it's around a group of people where I feel like I don't belong, is the worst.
I'll tell you,
is I feel like I'm not good at, you make the joke all the time. It's like if you walk in somewhere with a ladder and pretend like you belong, like nobody will ever question you. But
oh yeah, come on in.
I walk into a setting like that, for instance, where there's a lot of really, really respected, like awesome people doing awesome things. And my thought is everybody's looking at me like, what is he doing here? Like, and of course, none of them were doing that. They were the nicest, warmest, welcoming people of all time. But I, in my own mind, I know, and I think that it comes down to like, if I was to look at myself the way that God looks at me, I wouldn't have these problems, right? If we were to all walk around knowing that we are loved and valued by God, we would never it wouldn't matter what social status we have or what we think we need to be. And I think that comes down to too, we were really diving into the social media. I think that's another thing too, is people think if they don't have a presence on social media that's big enough, that somehow affects who you are, that affects your value as a person. And I would allow all of these things to manifest in my mind, and I would be so anxious and worried about it. And then it just made me, just a ball of nerves. But it's, being anxious is just something that I've dealt with for a long time. And it's like in high school, it manifested in a different way. I was like, anytime I had to take a test, oof. But this is the point I'm trying to make with it. I'm not trying to go, oh, so that's my excuse, everyone. No. Because here's the point. When you're anxious, if you get anxious, if you get worried, if you get uncomfortable, that's okay. But it doesn't mean you give up. It doesn't mean you don't do those things. It doesn't mean you don't try that to step out again. You take the tools sometimes. So sometimes you fail. And that happened to me at that event. I failed. I allowed my anxiety and my nervousness and my false sense of worth to overcome my mind. But that doesn't define how God views me. That doesn't define what I'm capable of or who I'm called to be. So when the opportunity comes, I'm going to step out again. When the opportunity comes, I'm going to try again. Because that's what God calls us to do. God calls us to step out of that comfort zone because he's calling us to greatness. And sometimes we don't realize that the greatness that he's calling us to is right outside of what makes us the most uncomfortable. But if we're not willing to take the leap or take the leap more than once, we're never gonna get there.
My favorite part about this new setup is I know that camera was on you right for that whole awesome moment that you just said, and I just like sat back and watched the monitor, took a drink of water, and relaxed for a second. We're talking about being uncomfortable, and then I just got like super comfortable while I watched you. But That's a great point. That's the point of this episode, you guys. The funny thing is we don't know how long this episode's going. We usually had a countdown on my phone, but everything's changed. We're changing the game with this new format. Hopefully this actually recorded and it goes through. But we were in a comfortable situation before, but we want to try new things. Like you said, we're made for greatness right outside that line, and we need to step over that line and be courageous, be ready to go, be ready to answer that call to greatness, right?
And I think that if you're listening to this podcast right now and you are struggling with stepping out of your comfort zone, know this and hear this, that you are capable. You are worthy of doing it. You are called to do it. And God has incredible plans for your life. God wants to do amazing things. Maybe things that you don't even realize you can even do yet. Maybe things you haven't even learned yet. God is calling you to them. But we have to be open and willing to jump into something new, to step away from the things that kind of shackle us, to try new things, to be uncomfortable. We have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that is when God does his best work.
Don't worry about failing. Like
that's
you said,
that's it.
I love that you said that it was a big failure in one aspect, but like failure is just another word for succeeding in a roundabout way.
Sure.
And as long as you can step back up and try it again. You know what I mean? Like try that same kind of thing, like social environment again, and maybe you'll throw up again, but like maybe you'll just throw up a little bit less, right? Just don't eat a big dinner before you go to those things, but then you throw up a little bit less the next time, and then maybe you feel sick to your stomach, but you don't throw up, and then maybe
you
next
have to
time
stop talking about this about throwing up.
We're gonna stop
too much on the podcast.
We're gonna stop the throwing up analogy. All right. You get the point I'm making, right?
Sure.
Little by little, you'll get there, and then before you know it, I mean, like, dude, slow down. Like, you'll be the one running around those parties, and I'll be like, hey, man, chill.
Sure. The point, at the end of the day, it comes down to, don't allow anything to stop you. And if you're anything that makes you, uncomfortable, or anything that makes you struggle, it's not, that doesn't define you, and it's not it shouldn't be what stops you from living out what God calls you to do. Even if it doesn't go perfect, even if it doesn't go great, even if it goes horrible, try again.
Amen.
Try again, because God is calling you. You know, we look to the example of Jesus. Jesus on the Passion, when he was struggling the most, fell 3 times. He fell 3 times and got up 4. You know, when he knew the end. He was on the journey to greatness, to what God had asked him to do.
You know what's cool about that is the ultimate failure, dying on the cross, was the ultimate success.
Right.
So don't be afraid of your failures, you guys, because God can turn anything into the greatest success in your life.
Yeah, God, and if that's an example, God turned death into life.
Exactly.
So God can turn anxiety, being uncomfortable, being nervous, being scared, doing a bad job at something the first time you try it. God can turn that into greatness. You got to give him the opportunity. And by the opportunity is trying again, doing the thing, trying the thing, whatever it is, do it.
So do all the things, you guys. I have no idea how long this is. 30 minutes, an hour? I don't know. But
I think we're at the point where
we're done. We're reiterating all your points. You guys are like, wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up right here. So we encourage you to try those things. Sign up for ministries at your church. They greatly and desperately need you right now. Sign up to be a tech person if you can be a tech person. Sign up to help with collection, because I know there's a lot of ushers and Eucharistic ministers, if they're even having them. But
if your
churches need you.
If your church is outside, everything is different and they need help.
Everybody needs help.
I guarantee it.
Yeah. So just don't wait for them to answer or to call on you. Answer that call before it even happens, and go walk up to the guys that are helping set up all the outside masses and say, "Hey,
how can I help?
How can I help?" You know, and maybe they'll say, "We got it, we're good." But that's okay. Offer that, and they'll say, "You know what? You could."
Or something that I'd love to say, because here's the thing too. And this is a completely different note, but this is just some advice that I have as someone that does this. I think a lot of times people are not willing to admit that they need help. So when someone comes up and goes, "Oh, how can I help?" It's the easiest response to go, "Oh, we got it." But if you go up and say, "I want to help. How can I?" I want to help. What's there to do? If you express the desire to help, people are going to give you that opportunity. And I don't know if that's me being "Oh, you need it a specific way." But I think that there's some kind of difference of, because the people that are doing something they don't necessarily want to inconvenience you. And if you're like, "Hey, how can I jump in and do that?" "Oh, well, can you move this? I don't want you to do too much because I've already committed to doing it." But if you come in and go, "I want to help and I want to be part of this," then it's you jumping into committing to making it a success. So then they won't feel as bad saying, "Oh, can you do this? Can you do that?" That's just my analysis.
I want to add something to that. And we're obviously funneling in who we're talking to right now. But if you are already in charge of some aspect of your mass, so whether you're a tech person, whether you're an usher, whether you're a hospitality, Eucharistic minister, something like that, and somebody offers their assistance, I find myself doing this as well. I go, no, we got it. Like you said, because you know what's going to happen? They're gonna do it, but it's not gonna be as good for a bit. So, for instance, people are coming up after mass when we're outside, and they say, "How can we help tear down?" And I go, "We got it," because I know how to wrap cables right, and I know how to bring everything in. And so, I go, but then I started saying, yes, no, that's fine. And what they did was they brought all the stuff in, and they set it all up completely wrong. But I told one person how the right way to do it, and then I had to reset everything. But the next week they came back, and then they learned a little bit more, and now they put everything away, and I don't have to even look at them or do it. But it'll get there, you guys. So encourage them to do it. Know that they're gonna fail, and they're gonna gradually get better, and things are good. All right. So that was the long roundabout way to end this episode. But again, we want to encourage you to join our social media platforms.
Yeah. So what if you don't mind, after we bagged on social media for a whole episode, not really, but follow us on Instagram. That's where we post all of our Tuesday thoughts, Psalm of the Weeks, quotes, pictures. Just follow us. Engage with us on Instagram. We answer our direct messages. Follow us on there. You can follow us on Facebook. Everything gets on Facebook too. If you're a more Facebook savvy person, everything goes to Facebook. And if you want to support us financially, please consider signing up on Patreon. If we get enough patrons, maybe we can get an intern that'll push the switcher buttons for us.
That's the dream
That's our dream. So, or if you're interested in doing that, send us a DM.
That's right. We live in the Southern California area, Orange County, Ventura County. Hit us up.
Yeah, let us know if you're interested in being on the team. We'd love to have you. Anyway, I think that's everything, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for being here, guys. We'll see ya. All right.
Peace.